that Donald Trump won the battle on the internet, through Twitter, through Facebook, through YouTube. Hillary Clinton outspent Trump by several multiples in traditional campaigning. Trump had grassroots voices like Paul Joseph Watson. Is it a coincidence that those voices were all wiped out when clearly, as Paul Joseph Watson himself just said, actual terrorists, actual violent thugs continue to have their social media footprint? Joining us now via Skype is the senior editor of Breitbart Tech, our friend Allum Bokhari, to talk more about this. Allum, great to see you again.
Hi, Ezra. And you were playing that clip from Paul earlier. He used the phrase that I was thinking of when you invited me on this show, which is, clown world. Yesterday, World Press Freedom Day, we had all of these bans. And I think you were just mentioning that the mainstream media would prefer to talk about fake news, and while at the same time, these unaccountable Silicon Valley executives are deciding for millions and millions of people, billions in fact, what news sources they're allowed to read and what news sources they're allowed to share and which ones they aren't. We've handed this power over almost every news outlet now to essentially Mark Zuckerberg. Without Facebook, it's almost impossible for a news outlet to survive, especially an independent news outlet without the resources of the mainstream media. You probably know this better than anyone, where the independent media is totally dependent now on these huge social media platforms that can take away your freedom of speech at any moment. And I think it's a real crisis for democracy when corporations are allowed to circumvent free speech rights like this, and Republicans often just hold up their hands and say, well, it's the free market. Yeah. Well, it's not the free market, it's the First Amendment. And if you let a corporation dominate the public square, you have to also hold them to the standards of free speech that you have in your society.
Yeah. Obviously our friend Tommy Robinson is running for public office in the UK. I've been watching, in fact, I was doing a live stream referring to his campaign's Twitter account. So not the Tommy Robinson personal account, but Tommy is a legally registered candidate in an official government election to choose a member of the European Parliament. And literally while I was on TV talking about it, his Twitter account was shut down. Not his personal account, but his campaign's account. I can't think of anything more meddlesome in an election than a San Francisco-based tech company with a huge shareholder, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal of Saudi Arabia, just deciding we're going to unperson an official candidate just in the middle of an election. I don't know how much, I think the whole Russian collusion thing was a bit of a joke and a scam, but what I observed with my own eyes in real time was some corporate decision in San Francisco to take away the voice of a candidate in an election. I find that terrifying.
Yeah, this is the new tactic of authoritarians who want to circumvent democracy and circumvent the freedoms that we've grown accustomed to in liberal countries. Just the other day, news broke that activists had pressured MasterCard to hold a shareholder meeting on setting up a so-called Human Rights Council to monitor hate speech, and the far right who use their services with a view to cutting them off. So instead of going to the government now, going to the courts where they're going to have a much tougher time of demanding censorship, or they have to get around, in America anyway, the First Amendment, where they have to get around political rights that have been on the statute books for centuries. They're now going straight to corporations like MasterCard, like Facebook, like Twitter, and they're trying to get what they want that way. They're also doing it with the Second Amendment in America. They've convinced Citibank and others to deny service to gun store owners that are engaging in perfectly legal activity, like the sale of high-capacity magazines. That's still legal in the U.S., and simply getting banks to stop doing business with them and getting rid of them that way. So it's a new tactic that the whole left is using. Instead of doing it democratically, winning elections, or legally winning court cases, they're just trying to pressure a few unaccountable corporations and CEOs into doing their bidding. And it's very ironic, given that the left used to be this, the ideology of the working class against the power of big business. Now it's been totally turned on its head.
That's an excerpt from the Ezra Levant show. Every day I do a video monologue and then I interview an interesting guest. And then I end by reading my hate mail. But you've got to subscribe to it, which you can do at therebel.media/shows.